Welcome to Pitch It To Me podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of flesh and blood design. Today's episode will be about the different ways that Legend Story Studios designs equipment abilities. You can find us across all socials, such as Bluesky and Instagram, at Pitch It To Me podcast.
I'm Clark.
I'm Fuzzy.
And I'm Joel.
For today's episode, we are coming to you from the distant past. That's right. Instead of recording our episodes last minute and rushing to get a show to you guys, we actually recorded this episode all the way back in July 20th.
Yeah, we were doing a really good job of banking episodes and staying ahead of our schedule up until April. And then April, May, and June all sucked for a host individually. And so now that we're in July, it's like, wait a minute, does anyone else have any bullshit going on for the entire month? No? Maybe we can finally get ahead of our schedule again.
And just to keep it interesting, I'm going to do one push-up for every day
Oh, dear God.
that this releases from the day that we recorded.
Wow. It's a lot of push-ups.
I need to do them.
There could be hundreds and hundreds of push-ups.
Thousands,
You can
presumably.
also cut this. So I never have to do a push-up.
We joke, but this is probably coming out in sometime August or September of this year. So I want to ask, what travel plans do we have for the end of the year? Do we think we're going to be traveling for Worlds? Do we think we're going to be traveling for the Super Slam World Premiere in Montreal?
Honestly, my PTO is looking so pathetic. I don't know if I'll be able to travel anymore this year. I would like to go to Philadelphia, though. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, Worlds, you just get such cool stuff. It sucked to miss out on that when it's so close, right?
Yeah, I felt with the most recent Nats experience, there was just a lot left to be desired in terms of like actual artists being there and more vendors, things like that. So, and Philadelphia, I've been there once before, very briefly. So I'd like to spend a little bit more time there, get another like Philly cheesesteak.
We'll see where I'm at. I don't quite have the budget to do multiple trips in the same year, and Nats was really fun. Maybe I'll be able to go to Philadelphia. It would be cool.
Yeah. Nats was also fairly cheap because we were all able to drive.
Yeah.
And then like go all in on an Airbnb. So we spent like less than 100 altogether just for housing.
I do not want to give anyone the impression that I did not spend a lot of money in Vegas while I was there to play Flesh and Blood.
Yes, we did spend the money to play Flesh and Blood.
Oh, yeah.
Because of all the sealed events. We had to pay for all of those sealed events.
Just being in Vegas is expensive.
Yes. I would love to go to Worlds. I would love to go to the world premiere. I have been very good and frugal with my PTO and saving up my money. I do put a lot into a travel budget.
Well, la-dee-da.
I know, fucking.
Why?
Thanks for joining us on your fucking high horse. Jesus. Your golden throne.
Oh, no, it's because I work while I'm sick and shit like that. Like, it's because I make bad choices.
For today's episode, we are going to be talking about equipment. We talked about the fundamentals of equipment in a previous episode. It seemed like you all kind of liked it. We really enjoyed talking about it. We knew we were going to do an equipment part 2, and that's what this episode is. We're talking about the abilities that equipment have and the ways that they manifest. Like, why does LSS want an equipment to activate on hit versus when it blocks or just on command? Or what's the difference between an equipment that only gives you one ability once versus over and over again over the course of the game?
Okay, Fuzzy, don't give away the whole episode. Damn, dude.
Just the spark notes, just
like
a little get to them reeled in.
It's like in the anime where they have the protagonist fighting the big bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, wait a minute, should I be finding this out later? Anyways.
We do want to hear from all of you. Call to action before we get into the episode. What piece of equipment do you think is the hardest to evaluate? Like, when you look at the card and you go, how many points of value is this giving me? What is your hardest to evaluate piece of equipment?
Yeah, when you're like, is this good? I don't know.
I think the correct option is just Compass of the Sunken Depths. What is the value of being able to look at the top card of your deck? I don't think you could ever put a mathematical point value on that card, but there's so many other cards where like you could try to math it out, but like, do you? I don't know. We'll get into it.
I think for Red Pitch, we're going to start with Joel. Joel, what are you talking about today?
Yeah, so for Red Pitch today, I'm talking about the one-time use pieces of equipment, the one-pump chumps of fab. This is going to include any equipment that either you activate for a one-time increase in value, and some cards that either pop on offense, where like you trigger it with an on hit, or maybe you defend with it and you get a one-time bit of value. The first card I want to talk about is Courage of Bladehold, and for those of you who don't know, it's just a majestic warrior chess piece that blocks for 2 with temper. The important text is you can, as an action, destroy Courage of Bladehold to reduce your sword attacks by 1 resource cost. This enables essentially free swings of your weapon. On paper, gives you 1 point to value if you swing your weapon 1 time, but it's sort of multiplicative if you swing like twice or 3 times in a single turn. But there's also this math involved with whatever buffs you apply to all of your attacks or the base power of your weapon. So it's kind of an interesting piece and sort of evergreen in a way, because it allows warriors that use swords to, get defensive value from this card and then crack it for essentially like really explosive value that you wouldn't otherwise have access to.
Yeah, this is a classic design that LSS has returned to multiple times. We've seen it most recently, I think, in Savage Sash, which is a brute card that very similar, right? Mm-hmm. It has 2 block temper, and it says, as an action, destroy it, and cards with 6 or more power get reduced by 1. Mm-hmm. The idea is that if you look at like Findalls and you're thinking, how many times will I get a Findalls resource throughout the game? And how efficiently can I use that Findalls resource throughout the game? Mm-hmm. And what if we took all of those Findalls resources over the course of the whole game, we put it into 1 fucking turn?
I think it really radically changes your game plan too. Like Courage of Bladehold is run in combo warrior decks, right?
Yeah.
Like Kasai and Blitz would run it. Bolton and CC runs it when he's doing his Sabres combo, because when you have equipment that give you repeatable value over time, you're looking to play over time. But Courage of Bladehold incentivizes you to play 1 combo turn. I'm just going to basically warrior Kano, right? Yeah. I'm going to play 1 incredible turn and play around that.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention Dory. She also likes using this card for double or triple swings to really stack up those counters and like run away with the game. But Fuzzy's right. Basically, warriors use this as a tempo play to sort of negate having to pay for your weapon swings and just use everything towards offense.
Yeah. So here we're seeing how this one-time on-demand value can be used by LSS to push the power that is provided by the ability, right? Rather than Findalls giving you 1 resource at multiple times throughout the game, you have a single turn where you have lots of free resources.
Yeah, so I think it's a really good example of the offensive one-time use equipments that exist in the game. You can point to a myriad of them that all do something similar for their respective class, but that's just one that comes to mind for me. Switching over from offense, I want to talk about a defensive card that I think is a really interesting one-time use card, and that's Quick Dodge Flexors. It's kind of a new one. It's a generic leg piece that says at the end of the turn, you destroy if you've blocked with it. And that's because as a defense reaction, you can pay 1 resource and add this card to an active chain link as a defending card. And it has a base 2 defense. And this ability is pretty impressive because although it's just basically 1 resource for 2 defense, you could effectively, on one given turn 1 blue into 6 defense, which as an equipment, the only thing that rivals this level of defense was Carrying Husk previously.
Mm-hmm. Now, it does take a card from hand, like you lose a blue to do so, but it's the equivalent of if you had a like 2-block Battle Worn or 2-block Temper leg piece.
Yeah.
That which, if you gave a card from hand and then blocked with it twice, would be 6 points of value. You're just now spreading it out between 2, 2, and 2 across 3 chain links on the same turn. Which I also like because it implies that there is a use case for this equipment, right? When you're playing against decks that go 3 or more wide, that's when you get the best value out of it.
And this is a pretty impressive upgrade from like the old Ironhide equipment suite that we saw in Monarch, I believe, where every equipment was, pay 1 resource, get 2 defense, blade break.
And they're reprinting that effect in the feet in Super Slam, the jug.
Yeah, the jug legs.
And the last piece I want to talk about for this section is a more utility-based equipment piece, and that's Mage Master Boots, which doesn't block at all. It has 0 base, but it does say, as an action, you may destroy Mage Master Boots, and the next non-attack action card you play this turn gains Go again. And this card is pretty impressive because it is so simple in design and very open-ended. So a myriad of heroes can find some use case for it. And the most recent example, obviously, is Gravy Bones being able to play like, more than one ally with Go Again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is so interesting whenever you see a card like this that sort of opens up later turn actions and lets you convert more with other cards. It's always hard to tell how much value you got from it. Mm-hmm. Is it just the Go Again? Well, sure, right? In a way, yeah, that's all it did. You spent one resource to give a non-attack action card Go Again. So you spent a resource for value. Yeah, that's common power level. Mm-hmm. But then when you see what decks can really do with that extra action point, how much that enables them to convert, then it's like, okay, but the fact that they also got to play the Rigor Mortis and swing with him, do I attribute all of that value to the Mage Master boots?
Or more on a more extreme basis, is giving Whaler Humperdinck Go Again, is that still 1 point of value, or are you enabling a lot more with it? Or maybe like Tome of Fendel, if you're gaining 6 life with Go Again, is that still just 1 point of value, or are you enabling more because that hero can play 6 cards and gain 6 life?
Go Again is so hard to evaluate because it's never just Go Again.
Mm-hmm. And it also strictly is just Go Again. So it's like, I feel like that's the two wolves inside of you. Is Go Again 1 point, or is it 11 points?
It's Scar for Scar has Go Again, and we're like, we all understand what that means. And then Mage Master boots, and we're like, we have no fucking clue what Go Again means.
So these are some of the easiest equipment to use because it literally tells you what you need to do with it. You crack it for value, all said and done. But
then as you get better at the game, you'll find the better moments to use it, right? Like there's a clear skill curve as you learn matchups, learn the deck, learn when should I be cracking Mage Master boots. And a lot of the times you'll hear casters talk about how, oh, it's very interesting that they chose this turn to do it.
Right.
Or, hey, they still have this piece of equipment up. That means that they still have the ability to come back into the game.
Mm-hmm. And to add another level of complexity to it, I'm going to start talking about cards with gated value. And that means they require some level of condition to meet, or just some other like tribute card you need to make it work. And so I want to start off talking about Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. For those of you who don't know, Mask of the Pouncing Lynx says when an attack action you control hits, you may destroy and find a card that's 2 or less base power from your deck and shuffle, and you can play it this turn. And this is the card that Fuzzy has used to great extent, right?
Mask of the Pouncing Lynx is very good in Katsu. It would have been really good in Zen if Zen didn't have another, like, even better headpiece to pull from.
Yeah, that's true. The branching decision trees from this card is pretty hard to think about because you can grab things like Tenacity to punish people for blocking, or Salt the Wound to punish people for not blocking. It's kind of hard to evaluate this because Ninja is a class that cascades with the amount of cards you can add to one particular turn, whether that's through card draw or just being able to tutor whatever card you want at that particular moment.
Yeah, having a 6th card available to you is so powerful, even if that card has base power 2 or less, which I think like when they printed it, they felt like that was a kind of a substantial limiter on Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, which is why I think they felt it was okay to have a very small, easy to jump through hoop, which is all you have to do to get to the value of Mask of the Pouncing Lynx is hit with an attack action card. It's a very easy gate to get through, right?
But it can do some bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like if Mask of the Pouncing Lynx grabs a blue Bonds of Ancestry, is it still 2 value? That's
probably more than that.
Yeah. Retrace the past, bro.
Yeah.
Well, the things that Fuzzy has done to me with Katsu and Retrace the Past, disgusting. War crimes. Go to the Hague.
Have we even like played lately?
No. Doesn't matter.
Or
I've
like
seen it.
Or like if you find Dishonor and you do the full combo, you take someone's hero ability away, how much value are you getting?
I always like to compare Mask of the Pouncing Lynx with Mask of Momentum. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx gives you the best card in your deck one turn, almost whenever you want. Mask of Momentum threatens to draw cards off the top of your deck randomly at multiple points throughout the game, as long as you can get 3 chain links in a row to hit. So your opponent has a lot more agency when you're playing Mask of Momentum. They can throw some armor block here and there to stop you off that card draw. But also with Mask of Momentum, that's part of the value you're getting out of the card. I'm getting you to give me armor more often than you normally would. So on my power turn, hopefully I have the way clear. But you're not actually drawing the cards. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, weirdly enough, is almost more flexible and gives me more value. It's this weird give and take, right? They're not going to block me as much when I have Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, so I can actually sometimes get more damage in because they're not bothered about doing the blocking. This is such a weird card to evaluate, like these two together. And right now, Mask of the Pouncing Lynx seems to be much, much better than Mask of Momentum. The only reason we run Mask of Momentum nowadays is when we get the hits for free against Gravy Bones. Because there's extra allies, I can actually get extra hits in just because of the allies. Or against like Syndra, because she has very little armor block and she needs all the cards in her hand to make her hand work. So she's really not blocking against Mask of Momentum.
Once again, we're seeing this distinction between whether the value can be spread out over the course of an entire game or the value wants to be concentrated into a single turn. And this equipment having higher ceilings because it is just relegated to this one single turn. So it can create a more impactful offensive or defensive overlap because it's just on one turn.
And funnily enough, probably the best ninja to come out in the past 2 years, Zen, he didn't really care about either of these masks. He had Traverse the Universe, which I'm sure everybody knows by now because we've talked about it at length on the podcast. But if you don't know, it's just 2 black headpiece that gets you a chi from your deck. What this chi allowed you to do is, especially with Zen, could be used offensively and defensively, and you were never really sure when it would be cashed in. And that, to me, made it one of the most powerful equipments in the game, but it was relegated upon you being able to transcend on prior turns. Is that a good enough restriction to make Traverse the Universe like a balanced card?
Because Zen's hero ability was so good, it gave you the Crouching Tiger that you needed as well as your best combo card in the game. That kind of, I guess, pushed it over the edge.
Yeah.
There's also something to be said for, like, you get the 2 block from Traverse. You don't get the 2 block from Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. You get to either block with it or use the ability.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's an extra 2 value from the Blade Break trigger and an extra Crouching Tiger that you get. And that's not even like separating the fact that with Mask, there's a little bit of a restriction on which combo card you can grab. I'm going to pretend that restriction isn't there because we're very flexible nowadays with what we can grab. So I think that's just kind of enough to push it over the edge and make Zen like even stronger. I think if Zen was using Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, he actually would not be that much worse off. But it is very, very nice to know that you can use the Traverse on your opponent's turn. So you have your chi from the get-go on your turn. You can plan your entire turn around it. There's no question as to, once you blocked with it, as to whether or not you're going to be able to do your full combo line.
True.
Yeah, but again, it did sort of show this leaning towards, well, we added another hoop to jump through, and so we're allowed to push the ability a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right? It ended up not being the hardest hoop. I think they expected it to maybe be a little bit more difficult, but really just that ability to say, okay, I have a 6-card hand now. It's big. It's really big.
Yeah, that's pretty absurd, and very little that your opponent can do to stop it other than not attack you. The next card I want to talk about is kind of like a fake example. This is Apex Bonebreaker, which has Temper. So you can block with it multiple times. And when you block with a 6 power, you create a Might token to use on your following turn. The reason why I want to talk about this card is because it highlights this new design trend that LSS has been hammering in for maybe the past year or so. I'm not really sure when it first started, but it's sort of this defend with your equipment and what I'm calling a tribute card.
I actually really like that term.
Oh, thank you. I stole it from Yu-Gi-Oh! It's another way that LSS has been trying to, I assume, adding more hoops to jump through and giving you better effects without breaking the game. And Apex Bonebreaker, I think, is a good example because it gives you 3 points of value plus 1 more for each time you block with it. So basically 5 points.
I think it's super natural for Legend Story Studios to be exploring this design because the big advantage that equipment give you is they're on the field already and they're just waiting for you, ready to go whenever you need them. Like Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, right? You strictly go up in value on that turn when you activate that card. But if LSS is like, how do we put cool abilities on equipment without letting players go really high above what they're normally able to do on a turn? In other words, without breaking the offensive overlap that they seem to be especially scared of lately. You just make them give up cards in order to get this effect, you know?
Yeah.
So you're no longer just getting value out of your equipment, you're trading value. You're giving up a little bit of tempo in order to get the effect that you want, but you're still able to utilize the effect well.
And the reason why I wanted to bring up this design trend is because they've also been doing it a lot with the armory decks. I believe the ones that I can think of are like Aurora, Bolton, and Grey Bones, I think, has a piece, but they all have pieces of equipment that say when you defend with another card of this specific type, you get a bonus. Oh, the Jarl deck also does this as well.
Yeah, the Jarl deck has Olin's Ice Cap, which if you block with an ice card, you give a Frostbite. Which is just Stalagmite's ability, but Stalagmite doesn't require that tribute card. That let it go from legendary to majestic. And you can only block with it once. You only get the effect once. But now a Jarl has essentially 3 turns where they can give a Frostbite to the opponent.
Yeah.
No, my blood rush bellows.
I also do want to note that another flavor of this is revealing a card from hand. That's how the Aurora deck does it. So Zap Clappers is the arms piece from that. It is a Lightning Rune Blade equipment. And it says when you block, you may reveal an instant from hand. If you do, it deals 1 arcane damage. So once again, we are seeing this design philosophy with these types of effects of saying, find the one best turn. Find the turn where the opponent taps out of resources and you have Channel Lightning Valley in hand. Find the one turn where you are able to attack with your swords multiple times in one turn. Find the one turn where you need to shove as much damage as possible when you hit, right? And it's all of those things that result in the equipment breaking and getting your value.
Yeah, overall, I think LSS has been doing a really good job of increasing the skill expression that you need to get the most out of your one-time use or these equipment that require this tribute card, and putting them in armory decks just makes a lot of sense. But I think now it's time to talk about cards that give us repeated value over multiple turns like we are used to playing with. So I'm going to pass it off to Fuzzy for his yellow pitch. What do you got for us?
All right, for yellow pitch, let's talk about that value that gives you that sweet, sweet value grind over time. Give me a little something here and in the future. Oh, and in the turn after that, please.
The value that gives you value?
The equipment that just keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I want to talk first about equipment that are resource dumps. You're like, oh, what am I going to do with all these extra resources? I have it like in my game plan. Like, I know I'm just going to be swimming in resources sometimes. It'd be really nice if I could do something when I have too many resources. I just want to spend it on something. Tectonic plating and grains of blood spill are 2 pretty similar examples. They have some differences between them that we might want to talk about, but tectonic plating lets you spend a resource to make a seismic surge, which is like a coupon for your next guardian attack action on your next turn.
Spin 3, get 1 off.
Grains of Blood Spill is a warrior chest piece where whenever you hit with a weapon attack, you may pay a resource to get a vigor token. With both of these cards, you can kind of just keep activating them every turn. Grains of Blood Spill, you can even activate it multiple times per turn if you hit with a weapon attack multiple times.
The reason why I don't like these equipment and I don't find myself using them very often is because that it feels like a scam to me.
What?
I'm like, oh, what do I do with that vigor token? I pay into Grains of Blood Spill to make a vigor token. And what do I do with that vigor token? Well, you see, I pay it into Grains of Blood Spill to make another vigor token. I'm just cycling the exact same resource.
Sorry. We're upset at an infinite money glitch in Fab. What's
it's not an infinite money glitch when it's the same fucking dollar. If I hand you $1 and you hand me $1, we are not $1 richer.
That's infinite money, dude. I'm always making $1 back. I don't see the issue here.
I mean, there is the concept of money velocity, but we're not talking economics.
I do love how Kasai has the option of cashing in those vigors one day, you know? Like, she could block with 3-4 cards in hand and still have the resources to swing into her weapons and maybe 1 attack reaction that gives her go again. So with like just 1 card, she can just push another 7 damage because she's been paying for these weapon swings turns ago.
Yeah, and I like the Kasai example because unlike other warriors, at some point she also has extra mana sinks in the form of Centauri sellswords.
Yes, it's good in her because she has a reason to spend the resource.
Yeah. But also rolling it back into the infinite money glitch, I don't know. I just think that's, number one, it's fun.
It does sound really fun.
Number two, I think, like you said, just having the flexibility of being able to use it whenever you want, especially when your deck construction is built to have like a blue every turn, a 1 cost to get go again, and like a 0 cost attack reaction. But if you have multiple like 1 cost reactions, those extra vigors help you have a really explosive turn when you eventually line up the hand for it.
And you know, there is another warrior equipment that I would like to mention here, which is Braveforge bracers, which one is another good outlet for that extra resource that you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're like, oh, 1 extra resource. I'm going to pay 1, give my next weapon attack +1. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so a Kasai turn could be pitching a blue to swing a saber, do a 1 cost go again on it, and then swing the other saber. That's good, right? That lands. But sometimes you have a 0 cost source of go again, but you still have that blue. Well, now you can spend that resource on your vigor token, right, into the Grains of Blood spell, or into Braveforge to push 1 extra damage. In either result, it lets you essentially fill in your resource curve, as it were.
Yeah, keep it really flexible. And that flexibility is something that can be really important in Flesh and Blood when you have a random amount of blues in your hand. Sometimes that's 0, sometimes it's 4. And you got to figure out, what are you going to do? Do you have a backup plan in case your deck is really trying to make you go O2 drop, you know? But I totally understand what you're saying, Clark, about like, how am I supposed to know if I'm actually getting good value out of these equipment when all they do is provide me options? I think the biggest case of this for me is Trench of Sunken Treasures. All it does is free up your arsenal and give you a resource back. And at face value, my card evaluation brain is like, you're telling me I have to give up an entire card that I worked hard for, and you give me 1 resource back? Like, I have this voice inside that says, don't pitch reds, don't pitch reds. If you're pitching reds, you're probably losing the game, because the value you get is so bad that even if you're playing good cards, like, you are still having a bad turn. An entire card for 1 resource is not that good. But Talon loves this card. He'll trench all day. He like doesn't like playing Flesh and Blood when he can't trench. Like, he has to teach himself to unlearn that he has that option available, because that option is so nice to have, apparently.
If you look at sacrificing a card, which we expected to be 3 points of value on average, for 1 resource, that's bad. That's -2 value. But then if you're like, well, if I was losing that card to CNC anyway, why am I letting that CNC get 9 value? Why don't I remove 3 value because it didn't get to destroy my card, and then I gain 1 resource? That's 4 value, baby.
Yeah, I don't think that math checks out at all.
That is the most egregious form of girl math I've ever heard in my life.
And yet, Talon is a master in Riptide. Explain.
He still hates you when you play CNC against it. He's not like growing 4 points of value out of his, I don't know, left thigh every time you CNC him.
Pussy, what the fuck are you talking about?
To go back to examples of resource dumps, I think one huge example would be Grasp of the Arknight. Grasp of the Arknight lets you pay it lets you pay 2 resources to create a rune chant. If you already have a rune chant on the field, it'll cost an extra resource to activate this ability for every rune chant you have. But the Grasp of the Arknight doesn't go anywhere. It's not like destroyed when you use this ability. You can just keep using it every turn.
Could you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
And if you're like Florian, who can create double tokens whenever he makes tokens,
it's so good, dude.
you can pitch 1 blue to activate Grasp, making 2 runers, and then swing your Reaping Blade for 3, making a 1 card 5 value play just with what you have on board and a blue in hand.
It's so good, dude. I fucking love Grasp of the Arknight. This equipment's so busted, and it's so good.
Yeah, it's been a problem in every single Rune Blade, and they just never do anything about it, and they always design around it.
I do think that when you have a class that's all based around these rune chants, it does make sense to me that they would want a safety net there where rune blades aren't completely boned if they can't make rune chants. And paying 2 resources for this aura that deals 1 arcane damage does mean that they're paying a premium in order to make sure that their game plan is running smoothly. But then like heroes like Florian are able to break that math. 2 resources for 2 arcane damage is no longer paying a premium, quote unquote. That's just a good rate. And then you pay 1 resource into Reaping Blade, and that's a good rate as well. So it just lines up really well for heroes like Florian. And it's also got Battle Worn too. So the fact that it can give you solid equipment block in the game kind of pushes it over the edge to where it kind of feels like it might be one of the most powerful equipment in the game ever.
And unlike the Tectonic Plating and Grains of Blood spill, you can very clearly evaluate the value that it generated throughout the game. How many times did you activate Grasp? You got one value every single time you did that.
But see, wouldn't you say the same thing about cranes and tectonic plating?
Not necessarily. For me, you have to be able to convert on that extra value in some way, shape, or form for it to actually be realized.
Oh, because the rune chants are dealing damage, whereas a resource or a seismic surge is something that lets you pay for things that deal damage.
Yes.
I can see the distinction.
It's a bit more nebulous. I mean, seismic surge is the cleanest one, right? You activate it to make the seismic surge, and that means next turn you can 2-card throw your 4-cost 8 power crush card. Okay, that's good, but that only means something if you were put in a situation where you wanted to block 6 with 2 cards and still throw your 4 for 8 power crush card. And you needed the seismic surge to be able to pull that off. Like, that's when it actually realizes the value, when it lets you block with that extra card from hand.
The next example I want to bring up is Mask of Recurring Nightmares. Now, sorry for raising everyone's anxiety level a little bit. This card is no longer legal in Classic Constructed, so you don't actually have to worry about it. But
You don't have to hate this card anymore. Just don't play LL.
it's the Mystic Assassin headpiece, where you can pay 3 chi resources to have your opponent banish a card from hand. So when I first put this as an example, Clark was a little surprised because he doesn't consider this to be a resource dump card. But one of the things that I think is really powerful about it is you can have that chi resource in hand, have a Bonds of Agony on the field, and you are threatening to do Bonds of Agony, right? The way that you counter Bonds of Agony is you throw a bunch of block in front of it. So you can threaten bonds, and then when they've made it clear that you're not going to be able to land your assassin on hits, you have another option for these resources that are now bunk. Instead of using your resources to pay for attack reactions, you can just funnel those now useless resources into Mask of Recurring Nightmares, and they just lost their last card from hand because they blocked with the other 3. Devastating. So I consider it a resource dump card for that purpose. These resources that are suddenly useless have an alternative use that you can still get value out of.
Well, specifically chi, right? It's not like regular resources.
That's true. It only is a resource dump for chi resources. If you didn't have Mask, you'd probably use new ability, and you might mill like 1 card off the top. I'm going to move on now to equipment that have very passive value that give you effects over the course of the game without you having to activate them. The first example I want to talk about is the classic, the GOAT value over time chest piece.
Oh,
That's Findle Spring Tunic. We're going all the way back to Welcome to Wraith here. Tunic gets an energy counter at the start of your turn, up to 3 energy counters, and you can remove all 3 energy counters to give yourself a resource. So over the course of the game, if there's 30 turns in the game, you might be able to squeeze 10 resources out of this single chess piece.
What the fuck?
I mean, it makes sense why this has remained one of the most expensive legendaries in the game.
It also being a generic means that it's available to everybody. So if you're playing a hero and think, wow, if only I had one more resource. Well, guess what, buddy? You can.
And there's so many ways that you can use that extra resource. Maybe you just have a bad hand and you want to turn a yellow into a blue in order to make your hand work. That's something you could do with your Tunic resource. Maybe you want to have a 4 resource turn, or a 7 resource turn, or a 1 resource turn, something where you don't want to pitch an entire card for that 1 extra resource, and it allows you to have turns at a different resource breakpoint than normal.
I really like comboing this card with other cards like quick dodge flexors, for example. I really like using quick dodge flexors when I have Findalls up because it means that I get to sneak in an extra 2 value, which really pushes it over that 6 value limit that we were talking about in Red Pitch.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's probably not too hard to find that 4th chain link if you're already bringing on quick dodge flexors.
It's Ira. We know what's happening.
One pattern with Tunic that I want to point out, because it might become a reoccurring theme for our other examples, is that Tunic has Blade Break 1. You can only block with this card once, and usually it's in an emergency. Like, oh my god, they're putting enough pressure on me. My life total is 1. So I will block with Tunic to save myself that 1 life because I literally cannot take any more damage. It's a common play pattern you'll find is once the pressure is really on, these repeatable value equipment often go away. I no longer have any tempo that I can spare to keep this equipment around.
Or the time, right? Like a lot of the situation is that it takes time to get the value out of this. And if you are no longer in a situation where this value can be obtained, it is better to generate its block value.
I want to give a shout out to other cards that have a similar play pattern, like Dead Threads from Necromancer from High Seas.
Oh, yeah.
Gives you value over time because, assumedly, if you have an ally go to graveyard every turn, or at least all of your turns, you'll be able to efficiently use those resources every turn. Vestige of Soul, which is from Monarch. It's a light equipment chest piece that says if a card has been put into your hero's soul this turn, then whenever you pitch a light card, instead gain that many resources +1. It's just free real estate.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Vestige of Soul just has a big hoop to jump through. You have to have a card go into your soul and pitch a light card after that. And depending on your resource curve, that might be kind of hard. But maybe you're able to get something better than Tunic out of Vestige of Soul if you build your deck properly. The next example that I'd like to talk about is Puffer Jacket. And I'll be honest, folks, I have not had to think about Puffer Jacket even one time since I saw it spoiled, but my fellow hosts put it into my notes, so I'm going to mention it now. It says, non-token hyperdrivers you control enter the arena with an additional steam counter.
They sure do.
Yeah.
Wow, this Max Armory deck sounds kind of sick. Where can I get one?
Your local friendly
Because
LGS.
they're still on the shelves.
So your hyperdrivers entering with extra counters, not only is that an extra resource, but it's also extra opportunities for synergy. This Puffer Jacket can really enable your game plan and buff it up to the next level.
So one of the reasons why we put Puffer Jacket in here and Vestige of Soul is because they are both passive abilities. Findalls and Dead Thread are interesting because Findalls has a passive and an active. It passively gains energy counters, but then you can activate it to gain the free resource. While Puffer Jacket and Vestige of Soul, it's always on. It just isn't always relevant on every single given turn. And so it's really important in my mind to sort of look at how they design passive abilities like that, because it is hard to always acknowledge when they're going to be relevant and how much value you can get out of them when they're passive like this. I think we've all seen the Vestige pop-off turns where they can get like 5 extra resources on a turn, but then there are plenty of turns where they like hit with a Herald, tutor out a Figment, and then pass because they don't have much else going on.
Right.
And so in that instance, it generated no value. It was active, but no value came from it. And that is going to be kind of what happens with Findalls a lot of the times. You'll notice you'll get to those 3 energy counters, and then you'll stop. And you'll wait for the right moment to use the 1 free extra resource. And so during that time, you're not generating any value. You need to wait to actually be in the situation for the value to occur.
And I remember playing Blitz and playing Kano, and I had a Tunic, so I played the Tunic, but it would have been better in some cases because the games are so quick to have that one time when I need it activated ability like Blossom of Spring, which is not nearly as expensive as Tunic, but sometimes it'll get the job done better.
Yeah. A lot of the times when I create budget deck lists, I look for more one-time use equipment like Old Knocker or Old Knocker, Courage of Bladehold over Tunic, because Tunic is more meaningful over the longer games of CC. But if you just need it for one good turn, there's better, cheaper options out there. I think that's also an interesting thing to note. Every single card we've mentioned in your pitch, Fuzzy, it's kind of expensive.
I think part of that is they save repeatable value over time effects for legendaries. When they want to print cards into draft commons, that's going to be one-time use. Maybe if you're lucky, it'll block and do something when it blocks. But usually it's like you get an ability that you do once. It gives you 1 or 2 points of value.
Sometimes you need to jump through a hoop for its block value.
The next card I want to talk about is Aurum Aegis. Again, this is a card that I think Clark wrote into our notes. It is the shield from heavy hitters that counts as a gold, and it has temper 2. This gives you value through cards like Visit the Goldmean Estate. Visit the Goldmean Estate, much like the IRS, will ask you how much gold do you have in order to determine how much value you'll get out of the card. So Aurum Aegis being a gold will make it easier for you to reach that 3 gold threshold where you start to get might tokens from Visit the Goldmean Estate. Having 3 gold is really important for Victor because Visit the Goldmean Estate is such a key card.
Yeah, this card's interesting because it is technically a passive because it's just a gold, but it also doesn't do anything else besides that. Like you could probably just block with it or sacrifice to Golden Sun or to redo a clash at some point.
And yet the difference between this and the rare equipment of steel braid buckler is the fact that it counts as a gold.
Yeah.
And that's enough not just to jump past majestic all the way to legendary.
Yeah.
Like that's worth 2 step ups in rarity value per se.
Yeah. Because as they add more gold support, Victor's going to get like these micro buffs where if any of them are generic, he's going to be able to use his ore mages as an additional piece of fodder for these powerful effects.
Someone in the chat was like, man, some of these pirate cards could have been generic, like Sunken Treasure. And I'm like, you want to give Victor a blue 3-block draw card? Yeah, do so, buddy. I'll use that shit all day long.
I also want to shout out Crown of Dominion for doing something pretty similar. It lets you start the game with a gold on the field. But once you've made that gold, Crown of Dominion doesn't do anything except give you a royal tag, which in itself doesn't do anything. But Crown of Dominion is kind of weird because most equipment, if they're on the field, they're relevant. They do something, you know? Crown of Dominion don't do nothing. Yeah. It gives you a passive value, and that passive value is zip nada.
Yeah, it doesn't even have 0 block value, so you can't use it to like eat a T-bone or some shit.
Yeah. You can use it for cash out, though, to turn into a silver. So keep that in mind, folks.
Gold
yeah, I give
and
you
silver?
Hey, yo.
Take my useless crown. I'd rather have a silver. I think those are all the examples of repeatable or value over time equipments that I want to talk about. So I think I'm going to hand the mic over to Clark, who's going to be talking about stuff. What are you going to be talking about in Blue Pitch, Clark?
Yeah, so the title of the pitch is No Blocks, No Bitches, which I think is something that Joel put down because the idea is you don't block with these cards because they're too important to block with.
True.
It ain't worth giving them up.
See, somebody on this podcast fucking gets me, bro.
Was that what you were thinking when you wrote it down?
Yeah, dude.
Was it?
Yeah.
Because
Was it?
Fuzzy gets dangerously close to Joel.
Because what we're talking about in Blue Pitch today is engines and build-arounds. Now, this is pretty close to what Fuzzy was talking about with value over time and resource sinks, because when you run tectonic plating and you are intending to make a seismic surge, or you run grains and you make that vigor, you are building that into your game plan. It is a part of the engine that you are playing. You look at other cards like Vestige of Soul and Puffer Jacket, and they enable certain play patterns that are open to decks running these equipment that are not open to decks not running the equipment, right? So it is sort of like a gate, but rather than for opening up card value, it is a gate for opening up deck construction. You run this equipment when you want to run these cards. So rather than just going over all the exact same cards again, let's talk about some new equipment that I think are very interesting in this space, like flick knives. Oh my gosh, so many people at our local armory have been picking up Assassin recently, and I myself have even picked up Assassin and played at 1 or 2 armories, and flick knives has been one of the most fascinating cards to evaluate for me. It's not just one value. Flick Knives is a assassin ninja hybrid equipment. It blocks for 1 and has blade break, but no blocks, no bitches. We ain't blocking with this card. It's too important.
Might as well be 0. I don't care.
As an attack reaction, we can destroy a dagger we control to have it deal 1 damage to an opponent, and it's considered as having hit.
That sounds like rules bullshit that's going to break the game someday.
And oh boy howdy, it kind of is right now. So Flick Knives is not used for 1 damage. Every single deck does not care really about the 1 damage that you get from the Flick Knives. What we care about is the utility that the Flick Knives provides. For ninjas, when they decide to block our attack for our Mask of Momentum, we can activate Flick Knives, deal 1 damage to them, and now that chain link is having considered as registering a hit, which means that our next attack can still continue to threaten the Mask of Momentum trigger, which requires 3 chain links to hit in a row.
I love how like convoluted this combo is. The attack didn't hit, but the chain link did.
Yes.
But you can't even draw off of it because the attack didn't hit. Like,
Yes.
you can tell how rules bullshitty it is when like you can't actually cash in Mask of Momentum. You can only continue it when Mask of Momentum does not provide that distinction really.
But the value is that it kind of it asks a question of the opponent. Can you block me on a chain link? But what Flick Knives then does in conjunction with the Mask of Momentum, it says, can you block me twice? And that is very meaningful because it doubles the load on the opponent of preventing your game plan. And so Flick Knives is this engine that really drives the core of the deck. But this also means that you're losing daggers. So you need to be getting your daggers back. Now with Syndra, it's pretty easy, right? You just activate her hero ability and you re-equip your daggers. But with assassins and with ninjas like Ira, you need to run your retrieve cards, which force you to pay an extra resource to re-equip your dagger so that you can keep attacking with them.
Or in the case of like Marionette, you can just keep making those Graphene Chelicera and just keep making new daggers.
Yeah. Anything that says equip a Graphene Chelicera is a garbage card without Flick Knives. You must run Flick Knives to get the value of creating a Graphene Chelicera, which is a core part of the gameplay. I was talking with a local of ours, Noah, who joined the game fairly recently, quickly latched onto Marionette, and has just dedicated himself to this one hero. He has said that the first 3 flicks that you do as Arachne Marionette are completely free. You lose a nothing. It is only a net benefit for yourself. Because you are either flicking Hunter's Clave, which on hit marks the opponent, which gives you extra value benefits, right? A on reaction way of guaranteeing that you are marking the opponent because they can't block the flick. They have to do damage prevention, which is much more difficult for decks to do. And the flick is also important because it opens up that equipment slot. It lets you equip your Graphene Chelicera. Then the second one, it's either another mark or another Graphene Chelicera, which then opens up the slot for another Chelicera or your retrieve card value, right? Again, it just feels so free because the deck is so oriented around it. So there's no downside to destroying your dagger. It's all upside. It's all good, baby.
Yeah, this card, it's so interesting, the evolution of this card and what and what Hunted did for it. Like, it was first printed in Outsiders and saw 0 play unless it was versus like
some Azuris ran it.
Versus Prism specifically.
Prism, but it was also because they'd run the one that made reactions block for 1 less. So they would make sure to flick it so that all reactions would block for 1 less when they flipped in their new thing.
Oh yeah, you could respond to Sync Bullet with this card with Flick Knives.
I don't think that was main board. Maybe against certain decks, but like for the most part, nobody ran this outside of the Illusius matchup. Because I think the only other card that replaced your dagger at that point was Concealed Blade, and that was specifically from your inventory on a hit trigger. And now you just say straight up, hey, I'm going to play this non-attack action, I have another dagger. Or I'm going to play this attack with go again, I have another dagger, by the way. And what it's allowed Flick Knives to be is pretty incredible at how they save that equipment piece.
Yeah. I mean, skyrocketed the value of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was like a $20 equipment. I think I actually bought yours, but it was a $20 equipment.
Oh, I know. I was going to bring it up.
They printed all the retrieve cards and it like shot the 120. And you were like, well, made that trade already.
It happens to me every fucking set without fail.
Some other cards I really want to talk about in this space is Rangers. The Ranger headpieces, I think, really lean into this idea of being engines and build-arounds.
Absolutely.
Skullbone Crosswrap and New Horizons are the 2 that I'm thinking of specifically. Skullbone Crosswrap as being a reliable source of opt and a reward for having a card in your arsenal at the beginning of your turn. Something that the Rangers are constantly searching for. Like, Premeditate's really strong with them, so Ponder tokens are good. They run Codex of Frailty, the Ponder's really good. They run Codex of Bloodrot, Codex of Inertia a lot of the time. So the Ponder, they're running a lot of cards that give them Ponders. Ponders is that free arsenal card, so it lets them empty their hand, get the arsenal card, and boom, now they have an opt for the next turn. The top card matters because Marlin wants to be constantly drawing off the top of her deck. It mattered for Azalea. Hey, rest in peace. Throw one up to her. Because she was always trying to dominate the arrow off the top or know what her draw was for Death Dealer. So lots and lots of value in opt there. New Horizons, in a similar vein, says that if you have that face up card in Arsenal, you have an additional Arsenal slot, essentially giving you 6 card hands. This was extremely powerful in Lexi and some builds of Azalea. I think Death Dealer Marlin also used it to very great effect, because Marlin's load effect puts a card in face up, and then you could arsenal a card face down. So you could end your turn by loading. Actually, one of my favorite things that I saw not a Death Dealer, but Harpoon Cannon Marlin do was run New Horizons, play 3 of a kind, load 2 arrows, dump the last blue in hand to harpoon, throw a harpoon from Arsenal. Whether it hit or didn't hit didn't matter, but when the Ponder triggered, draw a card in Arsenal, that one face down, and now they have 2 cards in Arsenal again. They just let that extra reload trigger essentially be a way of opening up the extra Arsenal slot for them, which I found really, really fascinating. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Marlins develop their builds around these headpieces. Because if you're going to be like a casino Marlin sort of idea, where you're constantly trying to use Golden Tipple to discard Goldfin harpoons that you make in hand and draw cards off the top, maybe you really want that up so you can start planning your hands around those plays. Or maybe you're going for what I was saying, where you want to be drawing a lot of cards and reloading a lot of cards and trying to carry over bigger hands that let you be more flexible with a New Horizons type list. In either way, the headpiece drives the deck construction. And that's one of the main things that I want to emphasize here, is that it changes how you build the deck and the cards that you include, and the value isn't always obvious. In all of these examples, what value did Flick Knives really provide? Yes, there's the clear example of the damage that Flick Knives deals, but what's the value of having the open Arsenal slot? What's the value of equipping a Graphene Chalicer? Is that 1 value? 4 value?
Well, one thing we didn't go over in the Flick Knives example is with Marionette specifically, you're also transforming your hero into another version of itself. So the value there could either be as little as, okay, I get a trapdoor trigger, I get to find a defense reaction for my deck, or I turn into Black Widow and I take a card from your hand, and what is that card worth? You know, it's sort of again, a cascading value proposition. And with the New Horizons example, specifically with Lexi and sometimes Marlin, 3 of a kind is also a pretty strong card because you get to load both arrows instantaneously. And we've touched on it briefly with Sunken Compass or whatever the fuck Gravy uses, but
Trench. Oh, the compass. Sunken Depths.
Sunken Depth.
So we talked about how that opt is kind of hard to evaluate, and I think Skullbone Crosswrap is interesting for the same reason, because you're not only seeing what you draw, but that dominate effect from when Azalea is present, or whether Marlin wants to, draw an extra blue off the top or a buff to amplify her harpoons. So not only does it change how each of the Rangers construct their decks, but I think also an interesting point is the information that your headpiece conveys as a Ranger player to your opponent and how they're going to try to counteract that gameplay.
Yeah. And ultimately, there are tons of examples. If you didn't connect with the ones that we said, there's still other ones. Like ninjas also have this design show up a lot in their equipment. Tiger Stripe Shuko is another really classic example where, okay, this equipment kind of doesn't do much unless you're throwing lots of attacks with 2 or less base power. Very powerful in decks where you have a Crouching Tiger base design, where this attack is always going to have this like token that you're looking to make, looking to combo with your other cards, has a base power of less than 0, has other cards that combo with it that have base power less than 0. But then like Ira's running it, where Ira only really has Whirling Mist Blossom, maybe Double Strike, or 12 Petal Kasaya, where you gain a resource every single time that you transcend. You want to be transcending, you want to be getting that extra resource. At the same time, that is also a one-time use equipment where you can use your chi to create the Zen state. So equipment don't necessarily have to exist in one of these categories. We created these categories sort of offhandedly. It was a rough way for us to talk about the design patterns that we had noticed LSS following. But I would say equipment is probably one of the most complex and nuanced aspects of Flesh and Blood design. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I think equipment is a big part of what makes Flesh and Blood so interesting as a game and what helps it stand apart from others.
Yeah, I think there's a flavor aspect, but also like a balance game, because Flesh and Blood is not largely a board state game. Like there's no lands that you put on the field for long periods of time. So equipment is sort of like the catch-all bucket for the mechanics that TCG players have come to know and love with board states from other games.
Yeah, I think there is a big question. It's not a question we can answer in this pitch, but I do want to ask it right now. How can we evaluate and provide numbers to equipment that don't give explicit mathematical value? How can you look at a piece of equipment and say, this is giving me 6 value in the game?
I mean, the answer is you can't, right? Like with Flick Knives, it's really hard to count because it's so integrated in with all of your synergies. It's combos that give the value, right? The combo between my Hunter's Glaive and my Flick Knives creates marking, creates me transforming into my hero, right? So it's very tempting in Flesh and Blood to try to look at each card and see like, okay, which one's giving me the most numbers? The cards with the most numbers are going to be the better ones. But sometimes you have to think of it more universally, you know, with these combinations of cards, am I going to be able to push 15 plus points of damage across multiple turns, you know? Or are these cards together going to give me enough of a combo turn that I can basically win the game off of these when I see them together?
I have the same answer, but a different journey to get there. I look at a card like Scowling Fleshbag, and it says, when this defends, intimidate your opponent. The value of a card comes up a lot when describing this card, and I think in general when you're trying to solve or figure out how many points of value a card gives you, there is a lot of pieces of context that everyone has to agree on before you even get there. Like you have to be like, okay, you only use Fleshbag when your opponent has 1 card left and the 3 chain links down. Like there's so many things you have to like, okay, after you agree with this part specifically, then we can say, okay, it's worth 4 points here or 5 points here. And because nobody can fucking agree on anything, it's really hard to, unless it explicitly says like the point value, determine what a card's worth.
Yeah. I'd also say that this is one of the reasons why equipment are one of the most skillful parts of the game. And one of the reasons why I think in products designed for brand new players, and by this I mean the welcome decks, the Ira welcome deck, and presumably in the future the Bravo welcome deck, as well as the First Strike decks, the equipment are egregiously simple. The idea is that they want new players failing to use the equipment properly and then in the next game using it properly. They want that to be a learning curve, and they want you to learn, oh, actually Scowling Fleshbag can sometimes be best when I block the very first chain link because they need all of those cards to work. And if I take any of them away, it can dramatically change how they use their turn.
True.
Something that I use to great effects against ninja and assassin players. I like using Scowling Fleshbag actually earlier rather than later, so that they end up time walking themselves because they want all those cards that were in conjunction with each other. So they won't take the weaker turn that I've now offered to them. They'll say, okay, so I guess I'll stop here and just do it again next turn. And I go, ha, you fool, that was my plan all along. Blood Rush Bellow. Yeah, the context and the skill with equipment, I think, is so massive. Maybe we'll do an equipment part 3. If you guys think that we've missed a big conversational topic or an aspect of equipment design and play, please let us know in the comments. And I think we've really enjoyed doing these 2 episodes. So we're definitely open to doing more about them again in the future.
I know I can think of some things, but maybe not enough to fill an episode. So please give us ideas. Help us write our episodes.
Yeah. Now, with all that being said, let's move on to the Arsenal Zone.
The Arsenal Zone? What's the Arsenal Zone? Someone tell me.
The Arsenal Zone is the part of the podcast where we all pick a card that we've been thinking about lately for whatever reason we want.
We could love the card. We could hate the card. We could love to hate the card, or the card could just exist in the bottom of our pile somewhere, and we go, wait, I have this card?
Mine is like that. But before we get to either of our choices today, we have a card picked out from our Patreon members. That's right. If you've joined our Patreon, then you can suggest a card every week for us to shout out. And today, the card that we've selected randomly is from
Talon!
Oh, the executive producer.
Not rigged. So for Talon's submission, he said standing order. And just to let you guys know, Talon made this suggestion over 2 months ago, and we've kept it in the bank since then. So that should be confidence for you guys in case you've been submitting. We'll get to your card eventually. And standing order, for those of you who don't know, is a 0 for 4, 3 block, generic action attack that says, when this attacks or defends, you may put a card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck. If you do, this gets +2 power and +2 defense. And he had this to say about it. Standing order. It's finally felt good in Riptide, and I've had a ton of fun with this very flexible card. Pushes damage, blocks well. It's just a good old time. That sounds like Talon.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I actually really like this card too, because I know Talon really likes his arsenal filtering effects. I do too. But what I really like about this card is that it's a pseudo popper. So if you have a really shitty arsenal and you need a block of an attack with Phantasm, standing order fits this role perfectly.
Yeah. I wish that it would end up blocking for 6 so I could use it to stop a CNC on the Codex of Frailty turn.
Yeah.
Which I think has hurt its overall adoption into other lists. The fact that it is nice because it can one card cover Leave No Witnesses. But the fact that it can't cover the CNC, I think holds it back just a little bit.
Yeah, I think it could have been +3 to either mode to like really get the most use out of the arsenal.
Yeah, let you choose.
Right.
You have to set it up by arsenaling something anyway, so I think that could be fair. 0 for 7 or 0 or block for 6.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Talon, for making your submission. I think standing order, I think a lot of people really wanted standing order to work, and I'm glad. Well, I don't really know when this iteration of Riptide you were playing was, but I hope it's still doing you well. I don't know.
He goes through 3 different versions a week. It's fine. He's like, wait, I submitted standing order?
Yeah,
no, that card's bad.
If you haven't heard your submitted card talked about yet, don't worry. We keep a bank of all your cards, and we'll get to yours eventually. But I think
if you want to hear your card and your thoughts on a card show up on the podcast, you can sign up for our $5 tier on Patreon and jump into our Discord and share your thoughts.
Yeah.
But I think that's it for the Patreon section. Who wants to go first for our Arsenal Zone?
Well, it says Joel's going first here, but you were just talking, so I'm going to make Fuzzy go first.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. The card that I've selected for my Arsenal Zone card today is Intimate Inducement. It is a Mystic Assassin attack reaction, part the Mistveil, that old archaeological set that no longer has any relevance to Classic Constructed. This one says target assassin or mystic attack action card gets +1. And that +1 is regardless of the color of Intimate Inducement. Look at the top 4, 3, or 2 cards, depending on color, of the defending hero's deck and choose a card. If the chosen card is blue, that card has 0 base defense, and put the chosen card onto the active chain link as a defending card and the rest on top of their deck in any order. Also, this attack reaction blocks for 3. This card is one of those really cute designs that I liked out of Part the Mistveil that happened to be not very strong and didn't really see any play competitively. I'm sure there were people running this card in their local armory. I think Manny was running this card at one time.
I know Moises was, I think, as well.
It's really fun. You get to look at your opponent's top decks, basically see their entire hand if you're playing the red version of this. I brought the blue one today, spoiler alert, because I think having a blue block 3 that can also like totally mess up your opponent's next hand or tell you what's going on could be really nice. And you get to like take blues out of their deck. You're doing that deck damage that I think we don't have a lot of in Flesh and Blood. We have Arachne Huntsman, and Nu is kind of doing it. But Nu would also just have all these cool options that allowed her to take cards directly out of your opponent's hand instead of bothering with the top of deck. So I'm shouting out Intimate Inducement for its lack of play, even though I think it's a really cute design.
Yeah.
We also don't see a whole lot of things that are like defend with this and it has base 0 power. Like that was a cool mechanic that they were exploring.
I don't know about cool. It was certainly a mechanic.
I have brought a copy to sign and hand to each of you since you love this card so much, Joel.
Joel.
Yeah, this card kind of killed Levia.
This card?
This and many other cards, but this was one of them.
Interesting.
Here you go. One for you and one for you.
Thank you, Fuzzy.
I think I'm going to go now.
All right.
The card that I've been thinking about.
I didn't want to go.
Huh?
Just kidding.
Oh, I mean, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your toes. So the card that I wanted to shout out today is Knick Knack Brick a Brack. This is a card from Everfest. It is a red only, 3 cost, 2 block, non-attack, generic non-attack action card. It's a pretty complicated ability, and I don't like pulling up cards because I'm not a coward. So Knick Knack Brick a Brack says, as an additional cost to play Knick Knack Brick a Brack, you may destroy any number of copper, silver, and or gold you control. Its effect is that you can search your deck for a card with amulet, potion, or talisman in its name, put it into the arena, then shuffle. For every 4 copper, 2 silver, or 1 gold destroyed this way, repeat this process. So you could destroy 3 copper when you play Knick Knack Brick a Brack and get nothing for it. That's a real option of this card. This card's weird, okay? But like, I think it is cool how it is a generic tutor card that I don't think we really see in many other places. And it was played at the most recent Pro Tour. There was a Verdance on stream who played Knick Knack Brick a Brack to tutor out one of his healing potions. And you know what? I thought, wow, that was clever. Because if your entire game plan is built around assembling your combo as soon as possible, it makes sense that you would want to run a tutor for that card. Now, is this a good tutor? No. Is this an efficient tutor? Also no. But it is a tutor. And the fact that someone tested it and felt good enough to bring it to the Pro Tour and play it in a pretty decent position. They weren't like 0-2 when they appeared on stream. Like, they had won games with this idea in their deck. So I think it is interesting.
It sure is.
I know that if I had seen a Verdance play Knick Knack Brick a Brack on stream, I too would be thinking about this card a lot lately.
Yeah. So that's it. That's my card. Unlike Fuzzy, I don't give these away. Joel, what's your card?
Sure. So my card is a card that I was thinking about for this episode, but I don't think it quite fit because of some parts of its text. And that's Spoiled Skull.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a Shadow Brew equipment that says, as an action, you may pay 1 resource to banish this. Then you target 3 action cards with different names in your banish zone and choose 1 at random to play this turn with Go Again. It also has Arcane Barrier 1, gas, and it also has Blood Debt, which is why like you banish it to like trade out a Blood Debt card. I really like this card. It comes in Extended Art Cold Foil, which is like a big draw for me. Also, Arcane Barrier is just good to have as an in-suite piece of equipment. And it's also a really good mid-range tool to sort of break through somebody's defenses with like your 4th played Blood Rush Bellow or another Dread Screamer from your banish zone. Just a lot of really good utility baked into 1 card. It looks fucking cool. So yeah, looking forward to more cards like this in Monarch 3, hopefully.
This is kind of a really bold effect. Like, those cards are banished. They should be gone. But no, you get to play one of them for free for 1 resource.
And it's not just cards with Blood Debt, right? Any card in your banish zone.
Yeah.
Blood Rush Bellow is one of the big hits. You should, as Levia, you should not be activating this unless you have a Blood Rush there available for you to grab.
I agree. Yeah, just super solid card. Has a lot of skill expression and unfortunately a lot of variance to it. So just an interesting card.
I still think back to me losing that game against Peter Podensik on stream. Like, God, if I just hit the fucking Blood Rush Bellow, man.
Yeah.
Or even the Savage Feast. Like, such a different turn.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's pretty much the podcast. We're done forever.
Oh, thank you guys so
much.
I mean, we're done until next week.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
And don't forget to join our Patreon at any of our tiers. But if you do $5 or more, you can submit cards for us to talk about in the section that we just did. So if you liked any of that, you can do that for yourself.
If you want a free way to engage with us, join our Discord. Link's going to be below.
And don't forget to join there soon, because that's the only place where you can get Super Slam spoilers. So keep that in mind.
And also hear some of our regulars lovingly gush over and or ruthlessly complain about about Mastery Pack Guardian. Because we just know that's going to be like a recurring conversation in the Discord for the next month.
Yeah. And also, let us know in the comments, which piece of equipment do you think is the hardest to evaluate?
Yes, we talked about some of them, but there's just so many equipment, we couldn't possibly put them all in there. So definitely want to hear your thoughts on that.
Now that you got your homework, I think that's about it. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Well, bye-bye.
Bye. Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by Fuzzy Delp, Clark Moore, and Joel Recinos. Executive producer, Talon Stradley. Logistics coordinator, John Farkas. Music by Dylan Hulse. Logo by Han V. Sound mixing, Christopher Moore. And last but not least, you. Thank you for listening. Please give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me podcast.
And we have another crazy, wacky Pitch It To Me podcast episode.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, let's not do that one. Unless you run cards that let it do something.
Yeah, unless you're running one of the 4 dog shit cards that interact with you being...
Or the 5th maybe good card.
What's the 5th
Home of Imperial Flame.
Oh.
You can't run that in any hero, though.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
It's not generic. Tome of Imperial Flame? Yeah, it's not generic.
Oh, I guess you can run it in Phi. Get fucked! Get absolutely shit on, Fuzzy! Get shit on!
Was I now? You're right. Tome of Imperial Flame is a little closer to being generic than Joel thought. I don't know. I know you can run it in 5.